yet. I haven't been given an assignment, and I just said, okay, this is going to take a little while. There's no sense to being all, with extra weight on you. I guess I was there about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15, and then the first tower came down. And the command post was set up across the street from the World Trade Center on West Street, and it was set up in front of the World Financial Center. And there was a loading area there with 2 garage entrances, okay, and that's how their deliveries came, and also I think parking cars. So as I remember it, first tower started to come down. Everybody was kind of like backing into these 2 garage spots. We really didn't know where to go. We were kind of out in the open. We weren't under a canopy of any sort or any building blockage. So at the last minute, my aide said, let's get back in here. And so if there's 2 garage doors, I went back into this one. And I was with Ray Downey, who was our chief of our Special Operations Command. And we kind of just backed in, not knowing what had happened. We knew something had collapsed. I actually thought maybe from where the plane came in and above had collapsed. I don't think anybody knew exactly at that time that the whole building had come down. So we basically backed up. But I didn't want to get into a position where I couldn't get out, or if it was the whole building, am I going to be buried by a building hitting a building, So we kind of just backed down the ramp a little bit. Not really sure what had happened. A couple of minutes went by, and the smoke was coming in, the dust, really, not smoke. The dust was coming in, but that had subsided, and we both kind of went back out into the street. And we were able to see now something devastating had happened. But again, still, I was not convinced that the whole building had come down. I thought maybe the top 10 floors, whatever.
So you still had a fairly good field of vision?
It was starting to go. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't great. But yeah, you could see. And I was with Ray and my aide. We were only 3 people that had gone there, so we figured everybody had gone to the other door, and that was blocked with debris. We were looking around out front there where the command post had been. Ray wanted to wait he thought Pete Gansey, who was the chief of department and commander, was right behind him. He didn't know that he had gone in the other door. So we were kind of...
The command post is gone.
The command post is completely gone. So Ray decides that he wants to wait for Pete, thinking Pete's behind us. Mm-hmm. But he's not. A few more minutes go by, and the chief of safety, and I guess 1 or 2 other chiefs came by and said, okay, the command post is gone, and I was ordered to set up another command post further north. He said, set it up as soon as you can in any place that looks like it's going to be okay. Now this is, for me, I'm a new deputy chief. I only have a year in the rank, okay? But things have changed. So we move a couple of blocks north, we get up another command post. Ray stays, okay? I don't know where Altori went right after that, but I went up, got to 3 blocks north of where we were. We started having companies come in, and we just were holding them there almost like a staging area. And some guys who had survived now were coming back to that spot as well. So Chief Cassano had gotten back there, and some other chiefs. And things were at least getting organized. Companies were reporting in, but we were still kind of in a standby mode. Then Chief Cassano suggested that he and I go down back again to West Street to look for Chief Galvin, who he knew was in the South Tower, I think in the area around the Marriott. So he knew he at that day he was the 3rd Division commander. So he said, let's go down and see if we can find Tommy, and because I kind of know where he is, and we could at least have a spot to look. So things were kind of under control where we were. So I went with him, and we went back down to West Street, and now we're in the area south of Vesey, and almost back where we were with the command post originally, maybe a little north of that. And he and I were having a conversation. Now it's getting very dusty. You really can't see. You could barely see the base of the building. Forget about the tower. And I said to him, I remember at this conversation, do you think it was the whole building, or do you think it was just maybe the top 10 or 15, 20 floors? He says, no, that was the whole building. He said it's too much debris or whatever. And just around that time, the second tower, the North Tower, collapsed. And we were not.
So you were standing
in front of it. We're not in a good spot.
Yeah.
So we both basically took off. Now it's just the two of us. I don't have my aide with me anymore. He didn't have anybody with him. He was able to get under a truck on West Street, and I was able to make it to the corner of the World Financial Building. And basically, at this point, the visibility was completely shot, and the noise from that collapse was fairly obvious, that it probably was the whole building coming down. And there's a lot of debris flying. It's not a good situation. So all I'm doing is really running my hand along the base of the building, trying to find an opening that I could duck into. And I ran. I went back the next 2 days, a couple of days later, and saw it. It was actually a doorway. But I didn't know that. All I felt was it had an indentation.
You went back to find where you had been,
yeah,
because you didn't know where you had
right.
been.
I didn't remember what it was. I thought it was just a cutout maybe for utilities or whatever, but it allowed me to get into a spot and out of the line of fire. Just enough to curl up and hold on. I have thought about this. It's not funny, but it's like when people ask you, what do you do when you're faced with that kind of situation? And it's the old war movie when the guy's in the foxhole and he's curled up and he's praying. And that's exactly what you do. And then, the noise level went down, but the dust was incredible. You really couldn't see. And I got up and I said, okay, that looks like we can get back to work. And I met an EMS worker who was in the same area. We bumped into each other, literally. And so we walked back towards the river, away from, the trade center. And we were lucky. We met, I guess it was a couple of EMS workers. And they were able to give us water, and we were able to rinse our faces off. And I could then see again, and I was able to function. So
had you lost sight or some sight of your eyes about it?
By the end of the day, I did, but not initially. The water, just to clean it out, was enough to get to work. Later on that night, I don't know if you want to scoot ahead or behind, I ended up, my eyes, I was taken to a trauma center in Queens. They actually thought my retinas were, my cornea was scratched, but it ended up, that's what they treated me for, but it ended up not to be that. It turned out to be just a heavy-duty case of conjunctivitis from all the dust. Two days later, they re-diagnosed me, gave me different medication, and it cleared right up. But that condition didn't stop me, that didn't limit me till almost like 9 o'clock that night. So I went back to where we had set up the command post. That was just on the edge of the ground zero, I guess is what you call it.
This is your third time to that spot, right?
Original, then the second. Well, my second time to that spot, and then.
Is this the original command post or the post that you had set up?
The one I set up.
Oh, okay.
That's where that became the new command post, and then that, when things had settled down a little bit, that inched a little bit closer to Vesey Street. So we basically operated from West and Vesey is how I remember it. By that time now, units were coming in who weren't part of the collapse. so they're clean.